The iron gates of Huntsville prison slammed shut behind Jake, Maverick, Thompson, and Danny Cruz. 3 years inside for crimes they'd rather forget. They'd met during a prison yard fight, 6 inmates against 2. They survived by watching each other's backs, and that brotherhood had carried them through hell. What now? Danny asked, squinting at the brutal Texas sun. Before Jake could answer, a black SUV pulled up. The window rolled down, revealing a face Jake hadn't seen in 5 years. Captain Sam Turner, former Texas Ranger, legend, but something was wrong. His hands gripped the steering wheel awkwardly. Prosthetic arms. "Get in, gentlemen," Sam said. "I've got a job, 50,000 each. But I won't lie, it might get you killed." At Sam's ranch outside the dying town of Silverdale, Texas, they learned the truth. 5 years ago, Sam had been the best ranger in the state. Then Gabe Stone came into his life. A ruthless border warlord who controlled a 50-mile stretch between Texas and Mexico through fear and violence. Sam had been transporting witnesses and their families. Gabe ambushed the convoy. 17 officers died that day. Among them was Sam's son, Michael, 23 years old, fresh from the academy, with a pregnant wife waiting at home. "Gabe didn't just kill them," Sam said, his voice breaking. "He made me watch. Then he took my arms with a machete, left me alive as a message. You can't fight anymore. Old man, you can't protect anyone." The room fell silent, except for the ticking of an old clock. "Gabe owns Silverdale now," Sam continued. 300 people living in terror, businesses paying protection money, families disappearing if they speak out. The local sheriff's on his payroll, and he's got enough firepower to start a war. I want him brought to justice, alive. I want him to stand trial. I want him to lose everything the way he took everything from me. "That's a suicide mission," Danny said. "Bringing him in dead would be hard enough. Alive. That's why I need you too." I watched the prison footage. 6 men jumped you. You put down 4 without breaking a sweat and held off the others until guards arrived. You didn't kill anyone. You could have. But you didn't. That means something. "Why do we owe you?" Jake asked carefully. Sam's eyes hardened. "That fight in the yard. I'm the reason the warden ruled it self-defense. I'm why you got early release instead of 5 more years added to your sentences. So yes, you owe me." Jake and Danny exchanged glances. The sudden clemency made sense now. "There's something else," Sam said. He pulled out a photograph. A beautiful woman in her 30s stood with a young girl, maybe 8 years old, both smiling despite the sadness in their eyes. Rachel and Sophia, Michael's widow and daughter. They run a diner in Silverdale. Every week Gabe takes half of what they earn. If they refuse, he didn't finish, he didn't have to. Jake stared at the little girl's face. Sophia, she'd never really known her father, and now she was growing up in the shadow of his killer, serving coffee to the man who destroyed her family. "We'll do it," Jake said quietly. "Jake," Danny started. "We'll do it," Jake repeated. "Not for the money, for them." Sam nodded slowly, relief washing over his weathered face. "Thank you. I know I'm asking you to risk everything, but someone has to stand up. Someone has to show that town that monsters can bleed." "When do we start?" Danny asked. "Tomorrow. I'll introduce you around town as my friends passing through. You'll observe, plan, and when you're ready, we take him down. But remember, I want him alive. No matter what he does, no matter how many men he sends, no matter what happens, Gabe Stone stands trial. That's the only way this ends right." That night, Jake and Danny sat on the porch, watching stars appear over the Texas prairie. "You know this is crazy, right?" Danny said. "We're 2 ex-cons going against a warlord with an army." "Yeah," Jake agreed. "But you saw that little girl's picture. You heard what happened to Sam's son. Sometimes crazy is the only sane response. When did you become a philosopher? Prison gives you time to think." Danny laughed, a short, bitter sound. "We're really doing this. We're really going to try to save a town. We're going to do more than try. Amigo, we're going to succeed. Because if we don't, nobody will. And that town dies." No pressure then. None at all. They sat in silence. 2 men who'd spent years running from their pasts, now running towards something that might finally give their lives meaning. Tomorrow, they'd enter Silverdale. Tomorrow, they'd see the face of evil. Tomorrow, the real fight would begin. But tonight, for the first time in years, They both felt something they'd almost forgotten. Hope, Silverdale, Texas was a town that had forgotten how to live. Main Street looked like a ghost town. Half the shops boarded up, the rest barely hanging on. The few people Jake and Danny saw walked with their heads down, eyes averted. Fear hung in the air like smoke. Cheerful place, Danny muttered as they drove through. Gabe's presence was everywhere. His men patrolled in pickup trucks with visible AR-15s, collecting taxes from anyone still trying to make a living. At the gas station, they watched two of Gabe's enforcers take money from an old man running the register. The old man handed it over without a word, his hands shaking. At Rachel's diner, they met the heart of the story. Rachel Morgan was exactly as her photo suggested, beautiful, exhausted, determined. Her daughter Sophia served them coffee with a smile that seemed impossible in this place. "You're Sam's friends," Rachel said, not a question. "Yes, ma'am," Jake replied. "Then you know what you're getting into." She glanced at Sophia, making sure the girl was out of earshot. "Every Thursday, Gabe comes, takes half of everything I make. If I refuse, he says he'll burn the diner down with us inside." I believe him. Everyone believes him. "How long has this been going on?" Danny asked. 5 years, since he killed my husband." Her voice was steady, but her eyes glistened. "Michael was a good man. He wanted to make things better. Instead, he got murdered, and his daughter has to grow up serving coffee to his killer's men." Jake's jaw tightened. Not for much longer. Over the next 2 weeks, Jake and Danny became fixtures in Silverdale. They helped Rachel fix the diner's broken freezer. They played catch with Sophia in the empty lot behind the church. They made themselves visible, a message to Gabe Stone that new players had entered the game. Jake found himself drawn to Emma Mitchell, the town's schoolteacher. She was 32, brilliant, and the only person in Silverdale who still looked people in the eye. "You're not from here," she said one afternoon, finding him reading on the church steps. "Just passing through. Nobody passes through Silverdale anymore. You're either running from something or running towards something. Which is it?" "Maybe both." She studied him for a long moment. "Sam sent you to kill Gabe, didn't he?" "To capture him," Jake corrected. "There's a difference. Not in Silverdale. Men like Gabe don't go quietly. Then we'll make sure he doesn't have a choice." Emma's eyes softened. "I want to believe you. This whole town wants to believe someone can stop him. But we've been disappointed before. 3 years ago, a federal agent came through, promised he'd bring Gabe down. They found him in pieces, scattered across 5 miles of desert. We're not federal agents. No, you're something worse, you're Hope. And Hope is dangerous here. It gets people killed." Danny, meanwhile, had befriended Henry Sanders, who ran the gas station, former Army medic, 3 tour in Afghanistan. He'd come home to find his town held hostage. "I tried to fight back once," Henry told Danny over beers. "Organized 10 men. We were going to ambush Gabe's next collection run. Someone talked. Gabe's men found us first. Beat me so badly, I was in the hospital for 2 months. Broke both my legs. They said if I tried again, they'd burn the station down with my family inside." "What if you weren't alone this time?" Danny asked. "What if you had people who knew what they were doing?" Henry looked at him with something that might have been hope. "You military. Prison. Close enough." Slowly, carefully, they built a network. The mechanic who'd lost his brother to Gabe's violence. Miguel, the retired cop who'd been forced out when he wouldn't take bribes. The bartender whose empty bar was a monument to Silverdale's death. 12 people total, not soldiers. Just ordinary people who were tired of living on their knees. Then on their 15th day in Silverdale, Gabe came to the diner. He was nothing like they expected. Tall, elegant, silver-haired, dressed in an expensive suit. His voice was soft, almost gentle, but his eyes were dead. Shark eyes that saw people as obstacles or tools. Behind him stood Caleb, 6'5", 300 pounds of muscle who never spoke, just watched, just waited. "I hear we have new residents," Gabe said pleasantly, sitting at their table uninvited. "Guests of Captain Thacker. How is the old man? Still learning to live with his limitations?" Jake kept his expression neutral. "Just passing through." "Of course, though you've been passing through for over 2 weeks now." Gabe's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Let me be direct, gentlemen. This town is mine. The people here belong to me. Whatever Sam offered you, I'll triple it. Leave tonight, no hard feelings. We're not for sale, Danny said. Everyone's for sale. It's just a matter of price. Gabe leaned back, but I respect loyalty, so I'll give you 1 week to reconsider. He placed a photograph on the table. Emma leaving the schoolhouse. After that, Gabe continued softly. I stopped being friendly, and you really don't want to see me when I'm not friendly. They had 7 days to prepare for war. Sam's ranch became a command center. Maps covered every wall. Henry brought weapons from a cache he'd hidden after leaving the army, rifles, handguns, ammunition. Emma recruited their 12-person team. They weren't soldiers, but they were desperate, and desperation made people dangerous. This is insane, Emma said on the 3rd night. We're farmers and shopkeepers going against 30 trained killers. We're people protecting our home. Jake replied, that's worth more than any training. They turned Silverdale into a fortress, fortified the diner, the gas station, the church, created escape routes and safe rooms, set up communication networks using old radios, positioned tire spikes at key intersections. They turned every street corner into a potential ambush point, every building into a defensive position. On the 7th day, Gabe came with an army, 8 trucks, 30 men, enough firepower to level the town. Gabe's voice boomed through a megaphone. Last chance. Walk away, or I burn this town to the ground with everyone in it. Jake and Danny stepped into the dusty street at high noon, alone. We thought about your offer. Jake called out, had a real long think about it. And Gabe's voice was almost amused. And we decided we really don't like bullies. The battle exploded across Silverdale like a bomb. Gabe's men advanced from 3 directions, but they hit prepared defenses everywhere. Tire spikes shredded tires at the gas station, funneling attackers into kill zones where townspeople had cover and high ground. Miguel led a flanking team that cut off retreat routes. Emma coordinated from the church bell tower, calling out enemy positions like a general. The fighting was brutal and desperate. Jake and Danny moved through the chaos like smoke, always where they were needed most, covering retreats, reinforcing weak points, taking precision shots that dropped Gabe's best fighters. But Gabe was smart. He sent Caleb with 5 men directly to the diner, where Rachel and Sophia hid in the basement. Jake saw them coming. Danny's southwest corner. On it, the fight at the diner was savage. Caleb was a monster in human form, taking down 3 townspeople with his bare hands before Jake reached him. They crashed through tables and chairs in a whirlwind of fists and fury. Caleb's hands were like hammers. Jake's were like lightning. When Caleb grabbed for a gun, Jake was faster, 1 shot, center mass. The giant collapsed, finally silent forever. Outside, Danny cornered 8 of Gabe's men in an alley. He'd always been the faster draw, disarming them one by one, wounding but never killing. Sam's words echoed, bring them in alive. When the gunfire finally stopped, 20 of Gabe's men were down or captured. 5 had fled into the desert. The town had won, but Gabe himself had vanished. They found him at Sam's ranch, standing over the old man, with a gun to his head. You took everything from me, Sam shouted, unable to hold his own weapon with prosthetic hands. No, Gabe said calmly, I gave you purpose. You've spent 5 years living for revenge. Without me, you're nothing. Just an old cripple with no reason to exist. Step away from him. Jake's voice was ice cold, his gun steady. Gabe didn't turn around. What makes you better than me? Jake, you've killed, you've stolen. The only difference is I'm honest about what I am. We stopped, Danny said from the opposite doorway. You never did. The standoff held for 5 eternal seconds. Then Gabe smiled and lowered his gun. Fine, arrest me. My lawyers are excellent. I'll be out in 2 years. This changes nothing. Maybe, Sam said, finally standing tall. But for 2 years, this town will remember what freedom feels like. And that's worth everything. Federal agents, Sam had called them hours earlier, swarmed the ranch. Gabe's entire operation across 3 states was being dismantled. Evidence Sam had gathered for 5 years was finally being used. You played me, Gabe said with grudging respect. I learned patience from the best. Sam replied, you taught me that, I just used it against you. 6 months later, Silverdale had transformed. New businesses opened. Children played in streets that had been empty for years. The fear had lifted like morning fog. Jake and Emma were together, renovating the old library. Danny opened a motorcycle shop with Henry. Sam spent his days teaching Sophia to ride horses, telling her stories about her brave father. One evening, Sam poured 3 whiskeys. "You gave me something I'd lost, hope and family. There are other towns out there," Jake said. "Other Gabs." Emma appeared with the others. "If you're doing this, you're not alone." And so they became legends, a team that went where law couldn't reach, giving towns back their courage. Over 6 years, they saved 11 towns, made countless enemies, changed thousands of lives. In prison, Gabe read about their victories and smiled bitterly. He tried to destroy them, but created something unbeatable instead. A family, and family was unbreakable. Before I let you go, I want to leave you with something. This story, both the original Sholay and this adaptation, asks a fundamental question. What would you sacrifice for justice? Not revenge, justice. The difference is crucial. Revenge is about making yourself feel better. Justice is about making sure nobody else has to suffer the way you did. Sam wanted Gabe alive because a trial meant the world would know what happened. The victims would be named. The crimes would be recorded. Future monsters would see that even the untouchable can fall. That's the difference between revenge and justice. And in your own life, when someone wrongs you, when systems fail you, when power abuses you, that choice is yours to make too. Will you pursue revenge that only feeds your anger? Or will you pursue justice that actually changes things? I'm not saying I have the answer. I'm just asking the question.